Child mortality was horrifying. In the 14th century, child mortality was high, with half of all children not surviving past the age of 5. The main causes were infections, diseases like pneumonia and diarrhea, poor living conditions, and a lack of medical care. Early childhood was a period when a child could die from the slightest illness, and parents often lost their children. Poor nutrition and vitamin deficiencies also played a role. Children who survived were often vulnerable to epidemics, such as the Black Death, which killed even adults in large numbers. Cities were dirty and smelly. Cities in the 14th century were breeding grounds for diseases. In Paris and other major cities, there was little to no sanitation. People threw waste directly onto the streets, which polluted water sources and the ground. Streets were narrow and poorly lit. The smell of rotting refuse, urine, filth, and death became part of daily life. Rats scurried through the trash both day and night, and the stench of stagnant water and decaying food was unbearable. This contributed to the spread of the plague and other infectious diseases, which wiped out entire communities in short periods. Women had almost no rights. Women in the 14th century lived in a patriarchal society where their rights were severely limited. Their relationships with men were hierarchical, and women were dependent on their fathers or husbands. If a woman became a widow, she could lose her property unless she found another male guardian or was otherwise protected. Domestic violence was common, but society rarely viewed it as a crime. Women were not allowed to own property or engage in public life. Their only recourse was either the favor of their husbands or religious sanctuary in convents. Executions were public spectacles. Public executions were a daily part of life in the 14th century. When someone was sentenced to death, it was not just a punishment, but also a spectacle for the crowd. Hanging, breaking on the wheel, and burning at the stake were common methods of execution. Crowds of hundreds would gather in the public square to witness the gruesome display. These executions often turned into sadistic entertainment, with elements of revenge and cruelty. The fear of execution and the violence of these events were a part of everyday life, serving as warnings to the rest of the population. Mercenaries plundered even in times of peace. After the prolonged wars, like the 100 Years' War, mercenaries who had not been paid or could not return to civilian life formed bands of outlaws. These free companies terrorized villages, killing, raping, and extorting money. Even during periods of truce, mercenaries would continue their violent rampages. Paying them off was difficult, and local populations often became their victims, forced to hide in the woods or endure attacks. Even in peacetime, peasants' lives were perilous, as they were constantly threatened by these lawless bands.